So today I'm going to be decorating a cake, and you get to see the whole process, how you decorate a cake live, so that when you are doing this at home you can see all the steps. So this is the cake. I made this cake on the last live stream. So these are vanilla cakes, and we're going to be making a tall cake. And because it's summer, I'm going to be crumb coating the cake first with ganache. Ganache is made from chocolate and cream or any other type of liquid, and it will set firmer than buttercream. So it's good to use, particularly if you are in somewhere that has hot weather, or if it's summer in where you are from. The video on how to make white chocolate ganache will be up later on today, so look out for it. If you really don't want to miss it out, why don't you subscribe now and turn on all the notification buttons, so that when I upload a new tutorial, you'll be the first to know. So I made this yesterday. It's always a good idea to make ganache in advance because it needs time to set. And I've left it just at room temperature for it to set. So you can see what I've done. I actually covered the entire surface of the ganache so that it doesn't form a film. And it's quite firm now, a bit too firm. So what you're going to do to bring your ganache up to room temperature is to just warm it slightly in the microwave. Now the thing about ganache is if you warm it too much, it might actually split. So you don't want to put it in the microwave for too long, just like 30 seconds, and then mix it. So you don't want it to be too firm like this, but you want it to be a little bit loose. It's what you call the peanut butter consistency. That's what you want to be aiming at with the chocolate ganache. So we're going to put it in the microwave just for about 30 seconds and then bring it out. And here are the layered cakes. So you see in this one, I've already trimmed the top of the cake. We want to have nice flat tops like these ones. So these are trimmed. So this is a cake that's trimmed, nice flat surface. And I'm just going to show you now how to trim your cake. Now if you bake your cake properly, you actually won't have raised dome, but even a flat top is actually not perfectly flat. You want it to be really flat so it will stack properly. So what you're going to do is using a kitchen knife, and you just want to just gently at the top, keeping your arms, keeping your elbow tucked in, and you just want to go gently like that and sawing off. I mean, there are different techniques to how to trim a cake, but this is the way that I find works for me. There are devices called cake levelers that you can use to trim your cake. Some work better than others. If you get a professional one, those are amazing and work really well. But if you're a home baker just making cakes at home, and you don't want to invest in a really expensive cake leveler, then this will do the trick. So you just want to just gently take up the top of the cake, just a gentle sawing movement, and that's nice and flat. And I like to tilt it 180 degrees, and again just go gently across the top. And that gives you a nice flat surface. Okay, so the ganache is here. I've warmed it up for 30 seconds, so you can see it's now nice and soft. It's like peanut butter. So that's the consistency that you want your ganache to be not too runny, not too firm. Peanut butter consistency ganache. So that's what you want it to be like. And then I've got my buttercream as well. Oh, I've got one more cake to just trim. So let's just do that together really quickly. If you don't trim the top of your cake, if it's nice and flat like this, will make no difference. But if it's really domed, then you'll find that your cakes don't sit properly together. So always trim your cake. Okay, and that's all our cakes ready to go. Okay, so let's set up for our buttercream. So this is just a non-slip mat. You pop on there. And this is your cake board. Nice and firm on there. And I've got my American buttercream all ready to go. What I like to do is put some into another bowl, so that when you're dipping to get more buttercream, you're not introducing crumbs into your buttercream. And with American buttercream, always cover it up, because once it's exposed to air, it will start to set and harden. And you don't want that process to happen before you have finished decorating your cake. Just put a little bit of buttercream on the bottom. This just acts like a bit of glue and centers and sort of sticks your cake onto there. And when you're stacking your cake, you want the top bit, the original top bit of the cake, to be at the bottom, because this bit is naturally flat. This is the bit that was at the bottom of your cake, so that's naturally flat. So you're putting it on like that, and then you're just going to add a layer of your buttercream on, and then just gently smooth it. I'm not a big fan of using so much buttercream in the layers, because it can actually affect the stability, because buttercream is slippy slidey. So if you use a lot of buttercream, it can actually affect the stability of your cake. That's particularly important when you are making tall cakes like what we are making. It's actually a bit too much. If you don't have a turntable, it's always a good idea to invest in a turntable, because honestly that makes a big difference with decorating your cake. It will be quite a struggle if you're decorating your cake without a turntable. Okay. So this is called a dowel. They come in different sizes, different shapes, and different materials. You can get plastic ones, you can get wooden ones, and these are used to give support to your cake. This is particularly important if you're making a tall cake. If you don't dowel your tall cake, the structure is not going to be stable and it could collapse. So it's an absolute must to dowel your cake if you're making tall cakes. Or if you're also making multiple tier cake, you need dowels to support the weight of your cake. So I'm going to show you how to use dowels. Actually, let me just show you. When I say a different size, so these are two different sizes. This is a thicker one and this is thinner ones. These are called dowels. So let me just show you. Dowels. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing it in the center of the cake, and this is our central dowels. There are different ways of doweling your cake depending on what you are making. If you are making a multi-layer cake, you will dowel it in a different way. This one that goes in the middle is what we call a central dowel, and you want to push it until it's right at the touching. Nope, it's not gone all the way through. Now it's all the way through. So this one actually has a dowel cutter, so we can cut the excess with that. So you can see where it ends. You just want to then pull it out a little bit. And just slightly marking where the dowel ends. So when I cut it, I can cut it okay, so that's the dowel cut, and then we're just going to push it in there. And you can also add extra dowels for stability. So I'm going to add a smaller dowel, 2 on either side, just to make sure my cake is extra secure. So you're just going to, you're pushing it in. It's a bit harder with these ones. You're just pushing it in. No, that's a bit too, that's messing up the edge. So I'm just going to put it in here and then just push it straight down. So this will make your cake secure. So this cake is not going to collapse. It's not going to go anywhere. So can you see? Okay. Okay, so that's how to dowel your cake. So now we're going to ganache the cake. So you want to pull that on there, and then you just gently want to spread that off the top, and then we're going to spread that on the sides. Ganache is messy to work with, so you just want to be applying a thin layer of ganache across the entire cake. Remember, this is a crumb coat, so this is just to lock all the crumbs and give you a firm foundation. Oh. then you're going to take a smoother and we're just going to use that to smoothen. Can you see? That's the way. You want to place it at an angle like that, and then you're moving in opposite direction. So you're turning your turntable one way and using that to gently smooth the side of your cake, just like that. So you can see how the crumb coat has created like a sort of a scaffold. And the top is also gently smooth off like that. So this is your crumb coated ganache cake, and you can see it's looking nice, tall and straight, and this will make it extra stable. So we're going to pop this into the fridge to set, and then we'll continue decorating with buttercream. So let's just clear up a bit. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to set, we're going to be making some red velvet mini cakes. So these mini cake tins I bought off Amazon, and I've seen people make cakes in this, and they look really nice, and they're a great alternative to cupcakes. So we're going to be making mini cakes in these cute tins. So let's get all the ingredients that we need to make our red velvet. We need our stand mixer, so let me get that into view. get my scale. Okay. So we need butter. So I'm actually using the recipe and quantity that I used for my red velvet cupcake, which is on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to be doubling the quantity. Okay, so with that, I'm going to be using, so for the original one I used 75 grams of butter. 75 grams of butter is 150. Oh, a bit of mental arithmetic. Yeah. 150 grams of butter. You can use butter or margarine, but it needs to be at room temperature. And we're going to be using 300 grams of granulated sugar. So we're just going to mix that until it's cream for about 3 minutes. While that's doing, let's weigh up some of the rest of our ingredients. I need to do some nuts. Three-quarter grams of flour. powder now. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then your baking powder. Sorry, back to baking powder and your cocoa powder. So 40 grams of cocoa powder. Oh, I think I have another. So cocoa powder. Sorry, I'm recording on Instagram as well. So here's your cocoa powder. 40 grams of cocoa powder. So with your cocoa powder, you should always save your cocoa powder because cocoa powder is made of fine particles and it tends to clump. So this is one ingredient you should always save. Let me see, all that comes. See, you don't want that in your cake. Let's do that. And what you can do is use a teaspoon to get that through. So that allows for a better consistency in your cake. One thing I forgot to do is turn on the oven. Turn on your oven so that it's preheated. And then just mix that together so it's nicely combined. So this is your flour mixture. One advantage of mixing all the dry ingredients together is so that when you put it with the batter, you don't have to be doing any more mixing. It's already nicely and finely mixed. Okay, so that's our flour mixture for our red velvet cake. I'm going to put that aside for later. Make more space. So next we're going to add in the eggs to the cream, sugar and butter mixture. So we're going to be using 4 eggs and we're going to add them one at a time. turn that off for a bit. Okay, and stop. So red colouring is a key part of red velvet cake, and I'm going to show you a great way of mixing up the red colouring to get the flavour, to get the colouring what you need. First thing, I'm not a fan of using too much colouring. I don't think that red velvet should be so brightly red, but if you want to use, if you want it to be very brightly red, then you're going to have add a lot of food colouring, which you can think about the pros and cons of that. It's up to you. So I want it to be red, but I don't want it to be very, very bright red. The ones that you see that are super, super bright red, they have a lot of food colouring in them, which in itself has its own disadvantages. So what I do is, the way I get really nice colour, first of all, I use this. So this is colouring by Sugar Flare. It's actually red extra. So red extra, it has, you know, it's more concentrated. So you don't have to use so much. So we're using 2 teaspoons of red colouring, and we're also using 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So what I do is actually mix the red colour in with the vanilla. So, teaspoon, well, you can measure with that, but I'm just going to use with that. That's roughly a teaspoon. And you want to really mix that in. It gets messy. Let's get the kitchen towel. Okay, so it doesn't fully dissolve, but you know, that does the trick. And then now we're going to pour it inside our cake batter. So you can see that this looks really bright, but when you bake your cake, you lose some of that brightness. So if you want it to be much brighter, you want to aim to get it brighter than what it's looking like. Okay, I can start off the squeeze a little bit. Just scrape. Scrape the bowl so that everything is nicely combined. going to be combining is a combination of the buttercream and the flour mixture. So you pour a bit. I'm actually going to move you guys a little bit closer so you can actually see what's happening. So you pour a bit of the buttercream. Buttermilk, not buttercream, buttermilk. So you don't want to overmix, you want to just mix it until it's just combined. And you see what I say about the color is no longer as bright? You want to mix until just combined, but you can't see any lumps of flour, and that's about it. So see the difference between the color of that and the color of that. So the addition of the cocoa powder gives part of the flavor for red velvet, but also it does change that redness. So you can start to see that if you want it to be very bright, you will end up using a whole lot of food coloring. And last but not least, we're going to add bicarb and the vinegar. Bicarb reacts with acidic substances like with the vinegar, and you get a reaction, and it also interacts with the cocoa powder to give you that delicious flavor that is actually red velvet. So we have your vinegar. White vinegar is better, but I don't have white vinegar, I have malt vinegar. That does the trick. And bicarb. Okay, so we're adding 1 teaspoon of bicarb. And 2 teaspoons of vinegar, and you're going to see it fizz because that's the reaction between bicarb and vinegar. And stop. You don't want to overmix. You can switch to just mixing it again just by hand. That way you less risk of you overmixing. Going to show you, see, baker's hands, always food colouring all over the place. Okay, make some space. So here is the red velvet cake mixture, and just Mix it a little bit by hand, and that's it. So now we're going to fill our mini tins. So on there. So this is the first time I'm using this tin, so I'm not actually sure how long the cake will be, how long will react. See that? I think they probably will take about the same amount of time to bake as cupcakes. So let me use an ice cream scoop. I'm just going to put that in there. I think I'd say, let's see how much 3 scoops. I think you want to fill about halfway. The key thing is halfway to about 2/3 often does the trick. So I think 4 ice cream scoops. So you just have to judge it. 4 ice cream scoops I think will be enough. Yeah. Let me show you. So you can see that's enough, so that should rise to the top. We're going to do that for all of them. 4 ice cream scoops. 1. So we're actually going to do a trial. We're going to see if 4 spoons was too much or too little, and judge it. Because with 4 spoons, that is about 2/3, like half. Like half of the way done. You certainly don't want to fill it more than half. You definitely, whenever you're filling, even as a cake tin, cupcakes, anything, you want to give space for your cupcake or the cake to rise. Yeah, I think we definitely need 4. Okay, so into the oven open. Okay, let's have a quick clean. Let's bring our cake out now. So nice and firm, and then we're just going to decorate now. You want to be adding thick layers of buttercream. There are various ways to decorate with buttercream. You can pipe it on using a piping tube. You can use acrylic disc, or you can just do like this. This is a straightforward way to do it. Doesn't need any fancy equipment. So we're just laying it. So you see, we're being very generous with the buttercream, and this is the way I find works better, just from the bottom to get to the top. Okay. So the whole cake has been covered. We're just going to now use a smoother to smooth it gently, using that same technique that we did when we were smoothing the buttercream. Sorry. We're going to smoothen the cake using a cake smoother the same way how we did it when we were doing the crumb coat with the ganache. Okay, so just gently you want to see. Clean the edge of the spatula, and then, okay. You can see it's starting to take shape. And then you're now going to go over any patches that don't have enough buttercream, and just adding more buttercream to any gaps. So these are the areas I'm actually going to switch to my metal one. And I'll tell you why in a second, because you use the metal to get your final finish. So again, holding it at a slight angle, and you just want to just gently smooth at the same time, turning like that. Get rid of any excess. Okay, I think let's just do one last final So we're going to put it in the fridge to set, and then I think the red velvet cupcake is ready. And then after this we'll do a final coat. So that's done. So I think four was definitely the 4 scoops that we did was definitely worth it. We could probably have taken maybe a bit more, like 5. But definitely the oven is a bit too hot, hence why the oven is a little bit too hot, hence why we have a dome. So I have a handy way of getting rid of your dome. If you just use a clean kitchen towel and just gently press down, that flattens that dome. Actually, I think I will stick with 4 next time because it rises nearly to the top and there is still space for the buttercream or the topping that we're going to put onto the cake. So I think that looks nice, and it probably was about 15 minutes in there. So I'm going to put this aside to cool. And then let's fill up the rest of the batter into the mini tins. And by that time, our cake would have set. So let's see what other colour gold. think this is all it's going to make. Whew. Yep, that's a lot. That is a lot. I don't think I can scrape anymore. Whew. Oh my goodness. You see? So you have that bit. It's not fully done. This is what happens when you don't scrape your bowl properly. You have mixture that's not properly mixed. But okay. So that's it. Okay. So it's nearly smooth. We're just going to do one final coating and then smoothing it with a hot smoother. Are there actually any areas of imperfection? No. So I think what I'm going to just do next is actually just do the final bit. Just use a hot smoother just to give it the final touch. So I'm going to heat it up. I'm just going to heat it up. And then just so you see that difference. So heating that up. Whoa! Okay, last but not the least. Whoa! That looks good, nice and smooth. And that's it. The top, I'm going to leave the top to fully set and then I'm just going to cut off the excess using a sharp knife. But this is a nicely decorated tall cake, and all you have to do is then decorate it as you please. So hope you found. Thank you for joining on this live, and don't forget to continue baking, continue doing your thing. I'll see you next time. Bye.